Hi, this is Genevieve Plays Rise of Berk, and today we're going to talk about how to use the best fish gatherers early on in the game. So looking at my game, I am only at Mead Hall level 8. I'm at Mead Hall level 8. Okay, I've kept this game intentionally low level. I haven't developed it much so I can do beginner tutorials because my regular game is too advanced. So I've got Toothless at level 41. I thought he was at 36. Sorry guys, he's at 41. So I'm going to show you how to pick the best gatherers and collectors early on in the game. But here's what you want to do early on. Okay. We do have tools for this. I have tools that I've recommended in other videos. However, I am going to stick to what we have in the game because those tools aren't necessarily useful if you're super early on. Okay, so I have my Book of Dragons selected on Exploration Toothless as a filter, and then I have for collector, I've got best fish collector on right now. You can also press this button right here so you don't have to click them to check the stats. You can see them. Now, unfortunately, I can't limit it to just dragons I can search for right now. So of course it's going to show rares. But if we go to dragons we can search for, okay, Shockjaw is a really good early fish gatherer. I can't remember how early you can get Shockjaw. I really can't. It doesn't say. I should know this, but it's pretty early on. I think it's about level 21. So you want to try to get to that level and get Shockjaw. Raincutter is another good choice. Now, the advantage of training a Raincutter over a Shockjaw, is that Raincutter can search twice as long, so you don't need to check your game as often. However, Raincutter being an uncommon rather than a common dragon does require longer to train and more resources, so you may not have the resources available to train him even up to your max level. This is not as much of a problem later on, but early game this can definitely be a problem, that you don't have resources to train a specific dragon. Looking further, Deadly Natters, also a good choice early on, and I think you get Natters before Shockjaws. So while you're waiting for Toothless to find a Shockjaw, I would recommend getting a Natter and using a Natter because they are lower level and easier to find than Shockjaws. Flightmare is also not a bad choice, but Flightmare is an uncommon, so I think Flightmare might be a little later level to get. So if you get them in a pack, great, and they do have a nice long collection time, but you may not be able to get them. Okay, I have Scuttleclaw here. I don't think Scuttleclaw is available in the game. I think I got Scuttleclaw from a mystery pack. That might be okay. It's actually a really decent long time and an okay gathering number for early game. And then Thunderdrums. Thunderdrums have a nice collect time and the number's fine. It's really early on, you're going to have to do Monstrous Nightmare because that's all you have. And I would say early on, when you're really early, like Toothless only goes up to level 12 or whatever that is, that first stage, do Monstrous Nightmares for fish and Gronkles for wood because they're kind of flip-flop that way, and those are the first two dragons you search for. So Monstrous Nightmare for fish and Gronkles for wood super early on, but you may be past that point by the time you're watching this video. So if you're just going by stats, I would recommend that you stick to Shockjaws. They've got really high collection value. However, early game, depending on your stage of life, it could be really tedious to be on the game and refreshing often. So the other feature you can do is to use Fish Collect Time and sort dragons by collect time. Now, some of these are not available. I have them or may have them available because of events or my level. But I would say as far as collect time, for example, Hobblegrunt is a common. You can get him pretty early. His rate is lower, but he can search for much longer than a dragon like Shockjaw. So depending on where you're at, you can do the math and see how much you can get for that time. So even if Shockjaw collects more, if he collects for a shorter time, you're not going to get as much fish, and so you're going to need to check the game more often. So you might want to check a dragon's collect time before you choose who you're going to use for fish or wood, even if another dragon would collect more. So Hobblegrunt, Snafflefang, Thunderpede is a little high. So Hobblegrunt, Snafflefang, and let's see, what's another common? Smothering Smokebreath is a really early level dragon. And even Hideous Zippleback. If you choose a longer gatherer for your schedule, you're probably going to get more fish early on over time if you don't have time to check your game. And it's not a bad idea to alternate that when you're checking actively to have a shorter gatherer who does more, because I'm going to check in another half hour, then go ahead and do a gatherer who does more. But if you're going to be going to bed or you're going to school and can't check your game for a few hours, going to work, because adults play this game too, then I would say try to rely on the longer search dragons. You're going to be able to last longer. But as far as just dragons to aim for as an early game player and to try to maximize your early gathering, who I would say is, okay, let's Shockjaw. Shockjaws are really good early on and they train quickly. So get multiple of these and this will be a way to keep your game going. They're not hard to train. See, I have 2 at 36 for this game. So Shockjaws are a really good strategic move to make. Also, another early game, really good overall early game gather would be Bone Knappers. If you can get a Bone Napper, and I think Bone Napper is the first rare you can search for, so that is another one I would aim for. Those stats are really good for an early game, player. My last point of recommendation though, if you look at my dragons, I have a bunch. But one of the reasons why events are so important is not just for whatever dragons are available for that event, not just collections, but I'm talking about like searchables. You can do an exploration. A lot of explorations come with rare dragons that you can't search for yet. So one of the first things I did is I got a triple strike, because when I started that alt account, there was an event for Star Streak, I think, and you could get triple strikes with Star Streak. Or other events, you can get Bone Nappers with an advanced Bone Napper, or a Grapple Grounder, or a Wind Gnasher, depending on the event. Take advantage of those and get duplicates if you can, and that way those will really kind of amp up your gathering early on. So don't just rely on clicking on a dragon and seeing what his rates are. I mean, I clicked on a Heck too. I use him for wood, so that looks really good, because you'll get distracted by, oh, look at those stats, and zero in on that. However, if you rely on the Book of Dragons pretty early on, make sure to search by best collector, and limit it to Exploration Toothless. That will help you choose what you're working on. You can't limit it to owned and best collector, unfortunately. So best collector, search by Toothless so you can see who you have and who's the best collector. And then also do fish collect time so you can send dragons out for longer times, because you'll actually get more that way even if they have a lower rate. It's similar stuff for wood, but I will make another wood video in a few days. So there we go. That is my short guide on picking fish collectors early on when you're the first, 5 to 7 levels of Toothless up to level 36, how to pick the best gatherers. All right, this was Genevieve Plays Rise of Berk. Thanks for watching. Bye.